Supertrainers 4+ hour marathon shoes, that's what we're discussing today and comparing when we're talking the On Cloudboom Max versus the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV where we review running shoes. Now if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below, so feel free to jump around to the various parts of this comparison, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. Quick disclaimers and disclosure for these shoes in particular, I was provided them for the purpose of review directly from their respective brands. That being said, I'm not paid, nor am I obligated to include them in any specific content, including this video. I'm not given talk tracks, talking points, and no one watched the videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now, as far as the intended use of these two shoes, I mean, technically they're a little bit different as described by the brands. The Cloudboom Max is really dedicated for those who are going to be kind of 4 hour plus marathon finishers, right? It's a shoe that's designed to help you finish a marathon, give you comfort until the end, but not necessarily be the fastest shoe on the course. Meanwhile, the Vista 2 is really more of a Supertrainer, a shoe dedicated more for long run workouts, right? Meant to kind of take some of the pressure off of the legs for that marathon build. At the end of the day, the application is pretty similar, but that's how we're going to be discussing them today. Now, from a price standpoint, the Cloudboom Max comes in at $230 and the Neo Vista 2 comes in at $200, right? If we're looking at the Cloudboom Max as a Supertrainer, then I would say it is expensive for the category, right? Typically this category is going to be around $200, and On, for the most part, I feel like On is usually about $10 to $15 more expensive than whatever category they're in, right? They kind of play off their popularity. So $230 even for On is going to be pretty high up there, but if you do consider it a racing shoe, then it makes a little bit more sense with their marketing and positioning why they would charge $230 for it. Meanwhile, the Neo Vista 2 at $200 sits right exactly kind of where that category sits nowadays. Personally, I think that Supertrainers are probably a little bit overpriced, but they put a lot of racing type technology into the shoes and oftentimes crazy stack heights, which is technically more material, so I get what they're trying to do there. Speaking of those specs, the Cloudboom Max comes in at 10.4 ounces, 296 grams, and has 40 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot, and an 8 overall millimeter drop. Meanwhile, the Neo Vista 2 comes in at 9.3 ounces, so a little bit lighter, or about an ounce, or over an ounce lighter, I should say, which is 264 grams, and it is 51 in the heel, 43 in the forefoot, and an 8 millimeter drop. And I do believe I got the specs, at least for the Neo Vista 2, off of Running Warehouse, who measures independently. I believe the specs that I'm listing for the Cloudboom Max are what were provided to me from On. Now, from a fit perspective, the Cloudboom Max fits basically like most Ons, which I feel like they tend to run a little bit wide, right? So I would say it's wide foot friendly and generally wide throughout the shoe. Then lengthwise, I would say it fits true to size, so I would not half size up or down. My normal 10.5 fit great, right? I do think that not just wide foot friendly, actively wide. If you have narrow feet, you're going to struggle with this one, right? With the Neo Vista 2, what we're looking at is a little bit long lengthwise, so you probably could afford to half size down in the shoe. With both this and the Neo Zen, I feel like they just fit long, can be a little bit sloppy that way. But then from the length or from the width perspective, I would say it has a narrow-ish midfoot, and then I would say it has a standard heel and standard toe box. Now, moving to the uppers of the shoe though, since we're on the topic, even though it fits a little bit long or really kind of a little bit narrow through that midfoot area, I would say that the upper as a whole has a lot of extra material and is a little bit baggy, right? The shoe as a whole is very spacious. You have this knit sock upper and it is very breathable, and honestly it is very comfortable as well. Most of the elastic is just right here, kind of where the tongue and heel is, so it allows you to get your foot in, but once you're in, you're locked in pretty good. Now, the extra space in the front does allow you to slide forward a little bit when running fast, but if you're going at kind of your threshold and slower efforts, then typically the lockdown does pretty good in the shoe. The hard part is you can't really cinch down a ton without getting lace pressure, but I do feel like, you know, you can bunch up the material a little bit and get a little bit better lockdown than just kind of sliding the foot in. As far as rubbing or anything, I didn't get any blisters, hot spots, anything from the shoe. And that it doesn't have any like additional padding or cushion though in the shoe at all either. So sometimes I kind of worry with those, but it does fit pretty much like a sock, hence the knit sock fit upper, right? The Cloudboom Max has a little bit more traditional of an upper, and this is going to be a breathable mesh upper that's made from recycled polyester, and it has some TPU overlays as well. Might be kind of hard to see on camera, but there are some different things kind of reinforcing the shoe, not just the logo there, right? So overall, I would say that this is fairly breathable. It's not like the most breathable shoe I've ever tried, but it is a very comfortable upper, right? Again, they designed the shoe with a longer time on feet marathoner in mind. So they wanted to give you, you know, a nice premium feel, but still give you comfort. So you do have some nice cushioning, a more traditional heel cup. The lockdown in the shoe is actually really, really nice. You do have a fully gusseted tongue, and that tongue is fairly thin and breathable. You also get some nice premium laces, and the shoe does cinch down pretty good and allow you to get your fit. I feel like the upper is nice and well constructed. I really have no critiques or kind of negatives for it, other than maybe it could be a little bit more breathable or it could be a little bit more streamlined, but I understand that they were going for some level of comfort over like a streamlined fit given the time on feet requirement for this shoe. Now, moving to the midsoles, you have two different approaches. So in the Cloudboom Max, you have the Helion HF foam, and it's actually two different types. So on the top, you have the Helion HF PIBA layer, which is going to be the softer, kind of bouncier layer. And then on the bottom, you actually have a really firm TPEE layer of Helion HF. Then sandwiched in between, you have a nylon plate. And that nylon plate is actually interestingly shaped, so you actually have almost a circular piece that is hollow in the heel, so your heel can sink down in, and it's not going to be quite as firm there in the heel. And then you have more of a normal plate kind of scoop through the rest of the midsole. And what that's supposed to do is allow you to potentially heel strike and then roll and transition, and it's going to help you more with the toe off. Now, for this midsole, I will say it does need a break-in period. It varies per person. For me, it only took probably about one run until I felt comfortable in it with kind of how firm it was. That bottom layer of foam is very, very firm, right? And I'm used to TPEE, and it all depends on how you tune it, but I'm used to TPEE being pretty soft and squishy a lot of the time. So I was kind of surprised to hear that the bottom layer was TPEE. But for me, the geometry of the shoe does roll not very aggressively, but really, really nicely. And for me, it felt great around that like 8 to 9 minute pace range, which puts it, I think, at like 3:30 up to, I don't know, 4 or something marathon pace, which is kind of the faster end of the shoe, right, in terms of where it's kind of positioned. But I found that it did also really, really well on easy runs. It's probably maybe a little firm for a lot of people in this category who are going to be on feet for a long period of time, but I didn't feel like, I saw some reviews after mine, and a lot of people were saying that the foam felt dead, that, there was no assistance, that it just was overly firm underfoot. And I just didn't feel like that was the case. I thought it was a really fun and comfortable shoe. I did 14 miles in it and felt very, very comfortable, felt very, very smooth. My feet didn't ache at all afterwards. In fact, my legs, my lower limbs felt really, really nice after the fact. And I felt like, it gave me plenty of space in the shoe as well, and I didn't sacrifice any lockdown. So I will say, yes, it is a firmer foam, but I genuinely liked it. The other thing I'll say is it is very stable, right? It's a very, very stable underfoot feel. You have that nice channel or groove in the midsole there on the bottom or in between the outsole, which allows the shoe to stay kind of locked in, and that firmer foam on bottom gives you a really, really stable base, right? Compare that to the Neo Vista 2. The Neo Vista 2 has a supercritical nitrogen infused TPU up top, and then you have a fiberglass plate in between, and then you have I believe it's an EVA-based foam on the bottom, right? That's going to be still soft, but a little bit firmer than the top layer. Now, the Neo Vista 2 is very bouncy, right? I think that it's one of the more fun shoes to run in. It's going to be very soft, very bouncy, very squishy underfoot. So very, very different when you contrast these two shoes. I think that the Neo, for me, it depends on the run. If I'm running a marathon and I'm going to be on foot for a long period of time, I don't necessarily want to be bouncing off the ground or really, really snappy and accelerating. I want to be able to relax in the shoe. I feel like I can relax in the Cloudboom Max, I don't know that I could relax as well in the Neo Vista 2, but don't get me wrong, I like the sensation underfoot significantly more, right? I really like the Mizuno Energy NXT or Next foam that they use. This nitrogen-infused TPU is phenomenal, right? It's very bouncy, it's very fun, it's really, really soft and comfortable underfoot, but it is a lot more unstable, right? It is a lot more chaotic, and that's part of what makes the shoe fun, right? It is easy on the legs, but it definitely requires a lot more engagement as you kind of bounce off the ground. So depending on what you're looking for, if you want something that is soft, bouncy, fun, kind of just, yeah, a little bit chaotic, but a good time, the Neo Vista 2 is going to be the move. But if you need stability, you need reliability, you need something that's just going to roll really smooth, that's where the Cloudboom Max is maybe going to be a little bit better. So, you know, again, I'll talk about this when we get to my pick, but I do enjoy the miles in the Neo Vista 2 more. The Cloudboom Max is a little bit more relaxed for me. So moving to the outsoles, on the Cloudboom Max, you have that computer-generated or optimized pattern on bottom. I forget, I don't know if I know actually the exact rubber compound on here, but in my mind, has some really, really good grip, right? They use, again, technology to kind of determine the grip pattern, and I felt like it gripped the ground really, really well and did what I needed it to do. Meanwhile, on the Neo Vista 2, you have that X10 rubber, and I also feel like it is a very, very grippy rubber overall. I do worry a little bit with the durability, but for the most part, it got the job done. So both the shoes checking the boxes there in the outsole department. So my pick, right? That's what we really want to discuss here. Which one do I like more? Which one would I use them for more? You know, if I was going to do an easy long run, I would go with the Vista 2. If I was going to go with a long run with threshold paces, I think I would go Cloudboom Max, right? I feel like the sensations are just different enough. With Cloudboom Max, I do get some general ground feel. I can kind of feel like I can control my pace a little bit more. And it honestly, like, I felt like I could pick up the pace in the shoe and was pleasantly surprised at how I could hit paces. The Neo Vista 2 is not really a workout shoe for me, right? That bounce, I kind of like, I sink into the ground a little bit too much. I want to be able to toe off, you know, pick my feet up a little bit quicker. It does have the weight advantage over the Cloudboom Max, but I feel like the Cloudboom Max being closer to the ground, being a little bit firmer, just gets me off the ground faster. So it really comes down to the workout that I would like to do. Now, neither of these is going to be a short, fast interval shoe for me, right? Both of them are going to be in the moderate to easy long run range for the most part, right? But it just kind of comes down to what exactly I'm looking for. I think I like the Neo Vista 2 more. I think that the Cloudboom Max might be a little bit more versatile for my usage. So that kind of tells you a little bit of where they're at in my mind. Just some final thoughts. You know, I think that Mizuno, frankly, is having one of the best years out of any brand on the market this year. I'm putting them for sure in my top 3, and depending on how things shake out over the next few months with some of the other releases that I need to buy or, you know, get and review, then it's probably going to end up 2nd or 3rd. I'm not exactly sure where right now. On has had a little bit of a rough year. I don't think it's been as rough as most people are saying, though. I think that their foams are a little bit firmer, and I think that their shoes have been solid. I think that the general preference of the market, though, is going to be that really soft, really squishy foam right now, and you can see that across a lot of brands. And so I'll be curious to see if On responds to that, and if so, how they respond to that, right? And if they start to implement something softer, if they go away from the clouds. What's really interesting with the Cloudboom Max is that, you know, the clouds are really more aesthetic. You don't really have the same type of large cloud system that you do on some of their daily trainers. So I'd be curious to see if we see more PIBA implemented into their shoes, or, you know, if they kind of go with just the aesthetic style clouds as opposed to CloudTech Phase or just standard CloudTech as they have in a number of their models right now. So, but honestly, I genuinely enjoyed all of the On shoes that I've tried this year. I understand that the public likes softer foams in general, and that's kind of what they're looking for. So if you watch this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what questions you have about these shoes, what other comparisons you'd like to see, and what I could be doing better as a reviewer to make these more entertaining for each and every one of you. Now, quick plug, I'm still raising money for the Tokyo Marathon, so if you'd like to donate to that cause and donate to the Sports Legacy Foundation too, which I'm partnered with, please consider using the GoFundMe link in the description below. On top of that, if you're in need of any running tights, specifically Wallaco running tights, my favorite are the distance half tights. That's what I do the large majority of my speed work and long runs in. If you want to grab a pair, want 20% off, consider using RADDAD20 when you check out and use the affiliate link below. That'll give me a kickback, which I'm donating towards charity. Or if you need any running fuel, running gels, electrolytes, anything like that, please consider using the affiliate link to Fuel Goods in the description below. Same thing, all commissions are going towards charity. Now, that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with a question just to finish this out, and I'm genuinely curious, what is your marathon PB? Let me know in the description below. Thanks, everybody.